Well, hello everyone. This is going to be video number one. I'm going to be talking a little bit about me. Um, this whole channel is going to be stories from my life. It's things that I've experienced, things I remember. Um, bef- Prior to doing this this first one, I did do a couple test ones and um, I started remembering things I had forgotten. So sorry to say, this is more for me than for you, as far as what this channel is going to be about. It's more of me remembering stories of my life, things that I have gone through, and um, and hopefully, um, there are mistakes I've made in my life, and those will come up later in later broadcasts. I'm gonna be completely honest as I do my stories. There are probably a couple of things that are gonna come out that no one knows about yet. Um, I'm not proud of some of the things I've done. I am proud of a lot of other things though. Um, so, all right, a little about me. I was born back in 71. Um, my parents adopted me at 6 days old. They were in their early 40s when they adopted me. They had already had three previous children, and my youngest sister was 13 when they adopted me. So, needless to say, while I have three siblings, I kind of grew up like an only child, and I got to experience a lot of things with my parents in their older years that you know, with their travels and such, um, that you normally wouldn't get. Um, but um, my parents were amazing. My dad was a dairy farmer. His dad passed when he was only 14 years old. Say hello to Jinx. Hi, Jinx. She doesn't like when I talk, so she always comes and bugs me. But she's a good kitty. Love Jinx a lot. Um, but anyway, so his father passed when he was 14, as I said, and he helped run the dairy farm with his mother. He still graduated high school, played football, and then met my mom at the Golden Globe Ballroom in just north of St. Charles. And that was back in 47. They got married in 49. Had three kids. Um, my mom had varicose veins in her legs, and after she gave birth to the third child, the doctor let her know, if you have another one, that is probably going to be fatal for you. So they held off having another child until I came along. Mom was in a car accident 6 months before I was born and broke her leg. And they were ready to adopt in December of 70. And they ended up waiting until she was fully healed before adopting. And that's when I came along. I was 6 days old. I've always known I was adopted. Um, they made it into a story. Sorry, I'm petting the kitty. Um, they made it into a story when I was very young so I could understand exactly what had happened. I I'm very thankful for it. I mean, I was born 2 years before Roe versus Wade. Um, I still, to this day, have a very strong opinion about that because of that fact. After my parents passed in 97 or in 17, I did the 23andMe thing, and just because I had no family history of medical issues possibly with my family, and I wanted to know if there's something that I needed to know about that I needed to pass on to my kids, something that they needed to worry about, something that might be genetic. Um, and I did that. I want to say in July of that year, might have been August. Well, in late October, I had a first cousin that was identified by 23andMe contact me because she was having questions about um, her family. She had questions about her father and things like that, and she wanted to know who my parents were. And I was like, I have no idea. I was adopted. And she got extremely excited about that. And she's like, well, when were you born? Where were you born? Well, within 24 hours, she'd gotten back with me. Sorry. That her great aunt was my mother, my birth mother. So in that time since, I mean, we're going on almost 8 years now. Well, 7.5 for sure. Um, she and I have been in contact. Um, I don't want to say we're close, but we do talk on a regular basis. Either by text message, by phone calls, sometimes just responding to each other on Facebook. So we are in contact with one another. Um, and I found out a few things about myself from that. Um, it turns out 23andMe was wrong. I'm Scandinavian. I'm not, yeah, I'm not German in that. So, yeah, I'm third generation removed from Scandinavian. My side of the family, or her side of the family, I should say, is pretty well long lived. I had a great grandfather that lived to be over 100. My grandmother was in her late 90s. So I kind of have that going for me. Unfortunately, um, I have recently found out that Parkinson's does run in our family, and that's a disease that's dominant on the male side of things. And while I see a few symptoms in me, I'm not hitting the panic button yet. I probably should go get tested, but uh, I'm kind of playing the waiting game right now. I'm playing the waiting game. So, but anyway, so I started dating my ex in 90. We got married in 98 after she graduated from college, and we were married until 23 was when the official date was that the divorce went through. She's still to this day my best friend. We still talk regularly. She has my back on a lot of things. Yeah, she's helped me out through some of my struggles. I help her out as much as I can as well. So yeah, I can't say enough about her. She has had my back for a long, long time. And okay, that's gonna be a talk for another day. About what happened. And yes, I'm gonna be completely honest about what happened. It's mistakes I made that caused the rift, but I still have feelings for her. Always will. Always will. We'll just leave it at that for now. That's, as I said, another story for another day. But I grew up on a farm in St. Charles. Um, a lot of how I work is based upon my dad and how he worked. As I said, he took over that dairy farm at the age of 14. Still graduated high school, played football. In 68, he had to make a decision to either get bigger as a farm or get out of the business entirely. Um, we had a 120-acre farm. The back 40 at that point was still covered in woods because that was where the cattle would go in a graze sometimes, in addition to, their normal grazing spot. Well, he made the option to get out of the business. So he sold a dairy herd. When I was growing up, we only had a few milk cows left. And within a couple of years, we got down to just buying a couple calves every year and raising them so we could, well, there's no nice way to say this, to have them butchered so we could have meat. Um, yeah, it was one of those things. So I grew up with animals on the farm. Yeah, I had to muck out stalls. Uh, was not a pleasant experience. I do not recommend, 0 out of 10. But especially in the middle of summer. But it kind of, you know having to work around the farm, and I know I didn't do enough, as much as my siblings did. My brother has this beautiful piece that he posted a couple Christmases ago about, the fact that he was out there working in the barn on Christmas Day, and then he heard the mewling of the cows, and he kind of recollected that this is probably the first noises Jesus heard when he was born, because he was born in the manger. So yeah, um, so next Christmas I'll probably share that story once again. So um, feel free to look me up on Facebook and look for that story, because it is a very beautiful story. Might be one of the best stories I've ever read, because I identified with a lot of it as well. But yeah, growing up on the farm, you learned very early on. Yes, you can use a tool, but when you're done with that tool, put it back where you found it. I still live to that to this day. People that I work with will identify with that. I do not, and I get on people about putting things back where you found it. If you need it in a hurry, you need to know where it is. There's not a reason to put it in a weird place. Current example, the pickle opener at work. Every day, it's in a weird place. Today, it was in the walk in. Sometimes it's above the sinks. Sometimes it's on this shelf over here. Sometimes it's on this shelf over here. Put it back in the same place every day, please. What more can I say? But no, but growing up, after dad got out of the dairy business, he went to work for Dow Corning, and he worked there for about 25 years before he finally retired in the 90s. Um, and we went to a cash crop, and the back 40 acres were cleared. That was before I was born as well. So I grew up with basically being a cash crop farm. Um, Dad working full time and being on swing shift part of that time too. Um, it was interesting. It was an interesting life growing up. I learned how to do a lot of things at a very young age. I was mowing lawn on a riding lawnmower by the age of 7. I was driving tractor by 8. I was cooking by then. Mom had to drive tractor quite a bit, where she'd be like, put this in the oven at this time, at this temperature, start this boiling at this time. Uh, so I guess my love of cooking started at a very early age. I just didn't realize it at the time. But no, I had a very eventful life growing up. I want to keep this somewhat short tonight. Um, I mean, I'm already at 16 minutes. Uh, but there's a lot of me that came out of that farm. There's a lot of me that came out of other things as well that I'll dive into on another date. Um, I don't want to make these too long because I know attention spans wane, but um, but yeah, this channel is going to be about me talking about my life, talking about the things I've done, things I've gone through, the successes I've had, the mistakes I've made. Um, and as I talk, I get more and more memories back. And that's more of what this is about for me. It's not about anything more than that. And as I said, if I can help somebody that has gone through some things that I can help them through, or if my stories give them a little hope or recollection as well, I've done my job. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. We will do this again very soon. Thanks for listening.